Hello everyone and welcome to the latest stop on the DreamHack tour. We are here in London, England. No applause. Disappointed. I thought I was going to get a much bigger pop for that. There we are. Jesus, come on. Work with me, people. We've got 8 of the elite teams from across the world. They're going to be competing for an incredible prize pool, $40,000 in total. And I'm going to be your host for the analysis desk. It's Richard Lewis. With me, we have got an all-star cast, as always, at DreamHack. We have got the world's leading analyst in CSGO. It's my good friend, Duncan Thorin Shields. How are you doing?
I think I just woke up. Have I just been like thawed out or something? Was I in the Ice Age? 8 of the elite team. There's easy skins in this tournament.
Right,
okay,
anyway, we'll get into that.
Keep going. Introduce the show, Richard. Put the visage back on.
I'm reading a script, Duncan.
Pass me the money under the table. Yeah, 8 of the elite teams in the world. Yeah.
We'll come back to you. And of course, joining us on the analysis, it begins. And with him, we have, of course, got the premier casting duo in CSGO. It is Anders and Semler. How are you boys doing as well?
Obviously not on a major.
Yes.
So.
Oh, no. That's different. That's going to be different.
How are you guys doing?
Never see the two of them together.
Yeah, I missed them. But, we're back together again. It's
doing excellent. Thank you, Richard.
And what about you, Sam? Good?
Everything's good, man.
Awesome. Well, look, I'm super hyped to be doing this. It's going to be an action-packed day. We've got like 10 best of ones to get through.
10 of the best of ones of all time, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm hoping so.
Is that what it says on the script?
Let me just check. We'll get that. The first one, though, is going to be, as you can see down there, Envious versus EIZO Skins. This, of course, is the new team that was put together after the French Revolution. Some of the best individual talent that's out there in the world right now, going up against the hometown potential heroes of EIZOskins.com. A lot of pedigree in there, but from a while back. They haven't really been active. The UK scene hasn't been much to shout about. So we're either going to see a miracle to open up with or a very one-sided stomp. I guess we'll start by talking about that. Which ways do you think it's going to go right off the top?
Yeah, well, you have to, when you look at the teams, as I kind of alluded to when you did that opening there, they obviously scripted and paid you for, Richard. So, hey, listen, money well spent, bought and paid for. So the thing about that is, it's pretty obvious by this. If you're going to call anything a stomp, this has to be it. Envious is one of the best teams in the world. EIZO Skins, well, technically it's EZ Skins, because that's the way it's written and that's the English language. So EZ Skins, remember that, guys? .com.
See Henry over there already chuckling along.
So anyway, it should be an absolute stomping for Envy.
Yeah, and what about you guys? Are you intrigued by this? Could this be an upset? I just want to mention this, and obviously we're going to do some analysis in a second, but Envious aren't strong starters. We know that something like the statistic is whenever they play the first game of the day, they usually lose that opening map.
I feel like, if we've got Duncan on the one side with the super realism, then the rest of us trying to create a little bit more of a sexy story here. I feel like this is the worst possible setup for EIZO Skins. Honestly, it's really hard to sell this one because if it was another team that was really sort of really tactically based and it wasn't Envy, then we could say, well, maybe they're going to underestimate this team and maybe they're going to play their set style isn't going to work well. But Envy's style is so chaotic anyway that it's very hard to deal with. I think this could be like a real stomp.
So if my style is realism, and your style is probably sort of abstract art, like Salvador Dali. 2 eyes on one side of the face. Semler's would be like impressionism because he's giving off like the simulacrum of a caster, what a professional caster would be like, So
well, let me go ahead and explain already, for like the format of how this worked out. As far as the seeding is concerned in the group, this is how it actually should be. You've got the bottom seed going up against the top seed. And so likelihood of an upset actually happening pretty slim, especially when you're talking about a team that doesn't really have any experience at all. So, you're going up against one of the very best. Well, guys, it's not like we're trying to make this story where it's like, sorry, we're on home turf here. Home turf, guys. They're in the home turf stadium.
That's why it's good to set it up like that, though, because as Richard referenced, if they were to win, it would be a huge job.
No, ridiculous level of upset. But I'm not in that camp. I'm just trying to do a bit of devil's advocatory. What we're going to do is, as you can see, the shots of our wonderful crowd, which were lovely and alert and awake at the time. There you go. They're figuring it all out. There's some hands in the air. We can have a look at the schedule because Envious and EIZO Skins, as I said, is just going to be one of a series of games. We've got an absolute roller coaster coming at you today. You can see that after this, we're going to have Team Dignitas versus Renegades. That is, of course, the Australian team that are going to be living in America, which is another reason why I couldn't just say 8 of Europe's elite teams, which is what I wanted to do, but I couldn't do that. They're kind of the foreigners that have come quite some distance to compete here. After that, you can see we've got the winners match, and then later on, you're going to see TSM versus Copenhagen Wolves, and Gamers 2 versus SK Gaming. Gamers 2, of course, stepping stepping in at the last minute for Mouse Sports, who weren't able to attend.
Do we have an Aussie in the crowd right now? Because I see a Yam sign.
Yeah, well, I hope so. I mean, of course, historically, the UK and Australia, we've always had a great relationship.
Very true.
Absolutely true. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm sure they'll get a big pop.
In many ways, Richard, RNG are criminally underrated.
Hey! It's another Duncan Zinger, sponsored by Alpha Draft. Pay me. So let's get in to talking about this matchup. I want to just talk about Easy Skins, because I feel we can wax lyrical about Envious, and I imagine we're going to have a chance to do that a little bit later in the tournament, if I'm honest with you. EasySkins.com, not so much. Now, these are perhaps the best team you could assemble right now in the UK. Their roster comprises, of course, Rattlesnake, the legendary CS player. He was a great captain in 1.6. I mean, UK 1.6 wasn't much to shout about, but he was always at the top, always at the best of that. Of course, during the CGS era, he famously won CGS when he was part of Birmingham Salvo. He then came out of that and led Team Dignitas to being the best UK team at the time, and they were going head-to-head with Reason Gaming in that CSS era. Then, unfortunately, he had to sort of drop out, take some time to study law, but now he's back playing the game regularly, and if there's one person who can make a winning team with very little to work with in terms of UK talent, it is Rattlesnake. I know you guys will be familiar with him. What have you guys got to say about him?
Well, I'd like to hear what Thornton's opinion is on this, right? Because he just released this article yesterday about the tactical approach to the game.
No, that's actually
existence being a leader who gets the most out of his team. Does Rattlesnake have the same thing?
That's a positive quality he does have going for him. The problems with Rattlesnake tend to be things like, what sort of an emotional leader is he? Like, is he too hard on people? Does he drive certain talent away because they can't work with him? It's more like the external social concepts that people have always questioned him about. As an in-game leader, as a player, he was a very good source player. He was quite a good early CSGO player, actually, when he had the Mouse Sports team, which then became an Nexus. And that team, if you remember, DreamHack Winter 2012, so this is early on in CSGO, were one of the first teams to come close to beating NIP. They had a really close game against them in the group stage, and then they had that famous Dust 2 game, I think it was in the semi-finals, where NIP had to come back and win 16-14. So he is someone who, as a leader, has done good work. He's been a good player himself, and it does seem like he always has those set tactics. Famously, in early CSGO, people used to make fun of the fact he had literally a notebook, one of those ring binders, and he had all the strategies written down. If anything, maybe he went a bit too in-depth. That's what people were sort of alluding to, or kind of making fun of it, But I do think there is a basis there. Like, that is a good foundation, as you alluded to with my column, where if you've got a less skilled lineup, you don't have someone like Kenny S or Apex, some of the best players in the world in theory. You want to be able to get as much as you can out of what you do have, and so you need to be directing it really close. That's where the in-game leader comes in.
But that's exactly it, right? I think that's where a lot of the criticism stems from, is the fact that he's trying to get more out of this lesser team, right? Air quotes. And the fact that he was too hard on his players. Everything had to go by the book. He had that binder. He had a plan in mind. And if they weren't executing on that plan, that's when he just started tearing people to shreds, because in his mind, it's supposed to happen this way. And it very rarely did it actually go that way.
I feel like being hard on your players in itself could be a problem, but it's even worse for the UK scene, because I feel like the UK scene is comprised of sort of what's left of a past age of pro players that have a lot of experience and sort of know how to play at a pro level, and then a huge legion of sort of scrim pros. And the problem is the people that come out of that sort of culture, they do really well in 5-on-5 pro scrims where they end up top fragging, they get 30-40 kills. So then if they get a chance to play at this level, if someone like Rattlesnake comes along and says, well, okay, we'll try and work with you for a while, then that person is going to think he's, oh God, I've got all these, excellent scrim results where I've dropped, all these kills. So I feel like they're very hard to teach. Whenever I speak to anyone in the UK pro scene, this is what they tell me, that we've got talent, but all the talent has this opinion of themselves that they're incredibly good. So then if you match someone with that personality against someone like Rattlesnake, who will just rain on you if he feels like you're not doing your job well enough, that causes a lot of issues.
There's also a big issue that's always been in the UK scene for the last decade or so, since the good 1.6 teams died off, basically, which is this entitlement, this notion that, right, well, if we're not the best now and we're not good enough, it's because there's some reasons holding us back. Okay, we don't get full-time salaries, and listen, we're not nerds who just play all day. We have to go and do school. Well, the problem is those excuses don't work anymore, because there's a team called Luminosity. They come from Brazil, and they barely have any talent there, and they don't have any experience, some of them, in CSGO, and all they've been able to do, they can't upgrade players, is just work on tactics, scrim properly, and as a result, they've become a team that's made 2 major
following that as well,
top 8s
Renegades, who are, of course, here, exactly the same. I mean, they were working as plumbers and laborers, and they were still able to, get some elite level.
So those excuses, they don't fly anymore.
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
in the early days there was something to it, but you can't be saying that. Now, if you make a team now, and you've got a pro team, you have to take the results as they come. That's your best effort at that point.
Okay, well, look, guys, I mean, just to We've done all this talking about, the great in-game leader, the legend. We're going to hear from the captain. We've actually got an interview with Rattlesnake at the moment. That's going to be on stage. And of course, a new addition to the DreamHack family is our boy Mantruce, who is doing the interviews this time. Let's see if he is intimidated by being in the presence of one of the UK greats. Take it away.
I'm good to go. Welcome everybody to DreamHack London 2015. Crowd, how you feeling? Good? Nice. All right, so I'm here with Rattlesnake from EIZO Skins. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I've just travelled up from the South Coast today, and we're prepared and ready to play this game.
Yeah, so going into this match, you guys are technically the underdogs. How is that going into a match of this scale? Because you're playing Envious. Does that play into how you feel, or are you just going to go into it and not worry about the competition?
I think we're not too worried about it. It's like the first international event for our team, and if we can win any game here, it'll be a bonus, as it's more about experience for the rest of the guys and getting used to this atmosphere and the professional environment, really.
In the lead up to this tournament, have you had much, good scrimming practice? Have you been able to play any of the top teams in a kind of practice environment?
We haven't really played the top teams so much, but we more focused on playing sort of medium tier teams and focusing on our strats and making sure we're executing properly and not really worrying about sort of playing against the best people, so to speak. But it was more about preparing and making sure we were ready ourselves rather than focusing on what everyone else was doing.
Now, the guys weren't at LAN too long ago. You just played I-Series, right? How did that go?
We managed to win that tournament. There was obviously a few hiccups and things like that, but I think we dropped a sort of draw in the group stage and then lost a map in sort of the upper bracket, but we sort of cruised through the final in the end. And I thought when the pressure was sort of on in the final, everyone stepped up on stage, and I think we're more suited to when it comes down to big games rather than when we're sort of just playing in group stages and things like that.
Now, is it a cliche, or being the underdogs, being the lesser known team, could that potentially play into your favour, and maybe you could take the old Envious by surprise?
We could do. I mean, it depends really whether they sort of underestimate us. They might come into the game thinking they're going to have an easy ride, but I mean, I've played against them before and I know sort of what they're about, and they'll probably try and disrespect us, but I think that'll be their weakness, really.
Yeah, are there any things that you would say as a team that you're particularly good at? Or do you have any things that you might be bringing into this match that could, really take you over that point to show them that you guys are a contender?
I think a lot of our players probably get underrated because they're sort of less well known, but I mean, we've got Luke Fearless, and he's an up-and-coming AWPer, and I honestly believe he's one of the top 5 AWPers, and people are going to see that. And as a team, everyone wants to improve, and we're really focused on making sure we do that. And with the support of EIZO Skins, we're just sort of making sure that as a UK team, we can stick together and just go through for the next 6 months to a year and just progress and progress.
Right, final question. How does it feel to compete in an arena like this, amazing place, in the home country of your team?
Yeah, it feels kind of amazing because it's like in the Olympics, obviously this was used, and now we're playing CS in it. So hopefully in the future the Olympics can come into play and gaming can go onto there. But for me, it's amazing, really.
All right, Rattlesnake, EIZO Skins, best of luck. Best of luck to the guys over at Envious. Crowd, we're going to go back to the desk right now. Who's ready? Are we good? Yeah, all right, over to you guys.
Richard, can I just ask you, how do you feel as a British person to be in front of a British crowd in this huge British arena? No,
it just didn't work on me, mate.
Doesn't work.
I'm
I thought I'd get in on it,
Yeah,
it's a good
Thanks,
try.
though. It was good. Yeah. So look, Sam kind of stole my thunder a little bit there in that interview because I did want to bring up a point. Now I know these guys very intimately on EIZO Skins.
Very intimately.
Whoa!
Yeah. You've been getting those easy rides,
Family show.
I'll tell you. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, because I used to actually play with some of them. Mole, for example, I played on 2 teams with him back when he was just a wee pup. I remember Weber coming through back when he was playing for Golden Eagle Clan or something ridiculous at the I-Series. Pulse used to be in RTL servers team. So I've known these guys. I watched them come right through. But what Sam said there about Fearless as the AWPer, I do think actually a lot of people underestimate just how good Fearless is as an AWPer. And in fact, it's quite a ringing endorsement that Sam, who's been an AWPer pretty much through all of his career, he's given Luke Fearless that mantle. He said, you take the AWP, you're going to be AWPing for the team, and me, someone who's AWPed my entire career, is going to switch to rifle.
Smacks of Fallen, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And what Fallen said at the qualifiers and also in the major when he was interviewed is, he's like, okay, well, I had players that had to be the AWP. I could be a bit more versatile. I decided to take the hit for the team and make it so that my players can actually perform to their best ability. So that shows that Rattlesnake is quite a veteran in that sense, or at least more wise, he's able to take a step back and take a hit on his own personal game for the benefit of the rest of the team.
Well, I want to ask you about, I don't know if you've seen a lot of Fearless, Duncan, but I did see your eyes roll when Sam said you thought he could be a top 5 AWP. Come on, this is what the crowd have really come here for, Duncan.
I mean, the problem with that sort of statement is when you say something like that, a bit underrated or a bit underappreciated about, well, on basis of what? We haven't seen your scrims, mate. You even said you haven't been scrimming the top teams, so how do you know that he's that good? I mean, it just sounds like wishful thinking, It's the exuberance of a new leader. It's like, oh, this guy's been doing really well. I hope it's going to go super well. All the people who are in the top 5 AWPers are really good players who've got like 30 good LAN matches, this best of 3 series, this 30 bomb here. You've lost a map at an I series versus UK teams. Chill out. Just ease back. Ease back like them skins on that .com site.
So look, so look, let's
get as many as we can in, boys.
So let's talk a bit about Envious, obviously. Now, I did say right at the top of the show, they are famously slow starters. Recently, they've got this weird statistic where when they're playing the first map of the day, they generally tend to lose it. This is sort of reference if you think about StarLadder, where they lost to G-Play, I think it was. That was the first game of the day. I think they've done it with CLG as well. And a lot of people say this is down to their exuberance, how they like to party, how perhaps that's a factor. Maybe there's a little hangover thing going on. I don't know. That's kind of the speculation in the community.
Not anymore.
But exactly, right? So that statistic does exist. Now, is that going to be anything to worry about here? Is that a factor here at all?
Well, I mean, what Sam said, maybe they're going to come in and underestimate us, but I actually think if they do, it'll pretty favor the way that Envy play. That's what's so frightening about them, is that if they come in and play like a loose style, well, that's the style they like to play. So I almost feel like it'd be better if you could somehow get in Envy's mind and sort of make them worried, but I don't think the Easy Skins are in a position to do that. So
they don't have telepathic powers. If
they can't. They can't.
It'd be great if you could get inside someone's mind and make them start worrying about stuff.
Can you?
Doing it right now, mate. Is it working?
It is.
The main issue there is that, if Rattlesnake is talking about having more of a structured approach to the game, Envy are going to be the complete opposite. And that kind of game goes into the aim kind of style, where it's just like, okay, who's going to out-aim who? And when you've got the likes of Kenny, Apex, Happy, MBK, Kiyoshima, right, all 5.
I mean,
where are you going to win your fight?
I liked Richard's illusion before, like maybe a bit of a hangover going on. Imagine this movie, The Hangover 4. It's Envious, right? They wake up... Happy wakes up, he's got one Wellington boot on, nothing on the other foot. He's like, Kiyoshima, where are you? He's sleeping in the bath, And they're like,
well, at least you didn't say the barn, well done.
And then they're like, where is Apex? Oh no, he's not here. We have to be at the venue in 10 minutes. It's going to be a great movie, right? I've got the script, I'm working on it.
Mate, that pretty much has been the tale of their tournaments.
We've seen Energy.
we've seen that.
The only thing that could get them to the venue on time, Richard, Monster Energy.
Mate, they do rely on a lot of that. So look, but they've been in a bit of a slump lately, right? I mean, not a slump, but they arrived on the scene, they do IEM, they make it to the final of the majors, and then last couple of tournaments. I mean, for example, just in Dubai, losing to NIP. This is something that is perhaps preying on their minds a little bit. Now, I don't think it's going to be a factor here. I think they're going to make mincemeat of EasySkins.com, if I'm being frank about it. But you had
to say .com.
Okay. Henry asked me.
Henry's like,
Henry's going to be casting the game at the company he owns. Like, it's ridiculous. But anyway, so he did say make sure you call it EasySkins.com. He did say that. He's laughing over there, but it's true. So anyway, I mean, is there any chance that they're coming in a little bit mentally rattled from some of the things that have been going on?
Rattled. See what we did there? Yep. Maybe they could. Maybe Rattlesnake could get in their mind and rattle them. I actually think that it's probably not going to worry them in that sense. I think usually one of the reasons why they've been upset so many times is they don't tend to get worried in the scenario, so they do play very loose. And the thing is, there are times when that obviously works against them and they do just drop the first game because especially the old lineup was so good, they always knew they could come back and still make the final of the tournament. So that on one hand gives you a chance, it does give you the in, but part of the reason they can do that is because they're so good. They've got so much skill that they can just walk through a match without even being prepared, without knowing what the opponent's going to do, and they could still beat you. So it's not like they lose every one of those games. And some of those games were to up-and-coming teams or teams that were a surprise on this one map that no one knew they were good on, I don't know that that'll be the case in terms of EasySkins.com, Richard.
You're going to get on this now.
Okay.
I mean, at some point you've got to be able to match your players 1-to-1 against the other teams. I think you brought up Luminosity.
You need to play 5v5 at all times, Anders.
Exactly, and you have to get all the rounds to win, all that stuff.
Just 16. Just 16, actually. You don't need 30 Anders.
No, but Luminosity.
I'll keep you on track. Don't worry, lad.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. If you brought up Luminosity, and the reason why they're a fun team to watch is not just tactically, but if you some of the games they've had against Fnatic, if you just match them 1-to-1 against the Fnatic players, when Fnatic try and fight them, they actually can win fights against the Swedish players. Whereas I feel like that's going to be a lot tougher for Easy Skins. That's going to be, I mean, if Envy just get to roll, then I'm not sure if they can stop them, even not just on a one-to-one basis. If you're just taking aim fights with them, it's going to be hard.
See, I feel like you're underrating Fearless, because Fnatic and Envious actually don't have any of the top 5 AWPers in the world. So Easy Skins, they'll probably have Fearless, and they'll probably just like bang them out like JW late 2014, just highlights all over the place. I'd go to the front page of hltv.org, another website, and he'll probably just be Fearless versus Envious, Fearless versus everyone, for the rest of the tournament.
So, Semler, I need to ask you if the map's going to be a factor. You can obviously see down there in the bottom, we haven't brought the veto up.
Actually, you know what highlight I'm looking forward to later? Rattlesnake versus Reality. Maybe they can make a video of that.
It begins. See you later. So, is the map Inferno going to make a difference here? I mean, I know we've historically talked about Envious's approach to Inferno and how they like to keep playing it, but maybe they're not quite as good on it as they think they might be. And Inferno is traditionally actually very good for UK teams, along with Dust 2, the kind of scrimming maps, the pugging maps, if you like.
But Inferno? You're calling Inferno a pug map?
That's how the UK have always approached it.
To be fair, Anders just said you have to win every round to get, so just keeping everyone.
No, seriously. I mean, that's traditionally how it was seen in
Andy did say 8 of the elite teams. Listen, we're stretching the truth here. We're stretching the truth here.
Well, the problem is that like Envy are going to have so much experience against so many different styles of play, like tactical. If that, like we're saying, right? If Rattlesnake is coming into this with a tactical approach to it, where he's like, "This is how we're going to approach the game." Envy, they've basically got experience against like all the different styles here. So to come up with something fresh that's going to catch Envy off guard, I again think that it's just going to come down to the aim duels. But the problem is that Envy are a team. You give them a Tech 9. I mean, they lose the pistol, which is probably going to be likely. They might lose the pistol because they seem to have a tendency for that right now. But then they come back into it with a Tech 9 Force buy and just completely demolish you. Or it's a 5-7 buy and they just completely demolish you. And then they just get all the momentum from there. So I don't really see how Easy Skins on this map, like they really needed a Dust 2. Like badly needed a Dust 2. Something random where they could actually probably turn it into some kind of random fight.
Yeah, but then again, Dust 2 against Envious would have been...
Better odds than on Inferno.
This is a factor, though. That's another factor you have to mention when you talk about the upsets, though. The best map of Envious in the past was Dust 2. So they were always willing to play underdogs on that, and it is the underdog map. So then if you come in tired and you're underestimating, and it's Dust 2 anyway, even if you're the best Dust 2 team, you can still lose on that map. So I actually think in the past, that also helped a lot of those underdogs get that win. It's way harder to get an Inferno win against a top-level team. They're going to lock that CT side down. On their T side, they're going to be so good on the Force buys, it's going to be really difficult to get a really solid half for yourself. I don't see this being a win for EasySkins.com.
Yeah, but I mean, historically, I mean, we've talked about this in the past, that perhaps their win rate on Inferno isn't what it should have been. With the old Envious
that was versus
lineup,
the best teams, though. Yeah. That's the main thing to point out here. They were a fantastic team on many maps. Their problem was they had a little bit of the nip in them where they would choose sometimes to go against a team on that team's best map. They'd go against Fnatic on Inferno, or they'd go against another team on a map like Cash or something, Against the lower level teams, it shouldn't be as big an issue. I think this is still very much a stronghold for them. It should be a convincing win.
And there's anything to add to this, since you are the general?
well, I think what you're bringing up, Thorin, about the locking down the CT side is I think that is, if we have to stretch the truth, as you said, or try and come up with some scenario in which Easy Skins could pull off an upset, it have to be starting CT side. It have to be somehow locking it down and Envy just not showing up. But that CT side is key to pretty much everything here. And I think that's also, Richard, you were talking about the sort of inconsistency of Envy on this particular map. Yeah. I think it does have to do with the fact that if you're playing a TSM or a Fnatic on this particular map, you can lose, 14, 15 rounds in a row on the T side. It's perfectly possible. That doesn't mean you're suddenly, bad at the map anymore. It's just that you got to start on the wrong side. It's kind of like what Nuke used to be like, Inferno now. There really are some teams that will just never let you go through. Especially on that B bomb side. So I mean, I don't know what EC Skin's setup is going to be like. If they've got good B players, they could put up a stronghold on A as well. But I really think starting CT side has to be a key for this.
That's a big concern for me as well, because here's the thing. Maybe with the map bias, maybe EC Skins have some players that are better than the Envious guys are expecting. Maybe they can get the start. Okay, maybe they can get 8, 9, 10 rounds first half. The problem is, I can't see them getting the lockdown on CT half, because one of the things is Envious famously have some of the best entry fraggers in the world. They have players who, on the hard side, they're going to break it open and with lesser guns. So that's why it's going to be hard to even get it's not like you can just hold serve and then hope you're going to make it.
I was just going to bring it up. Obviously, some of the players have come from Titan. Now, Titan, when they were playing Inferno, it would be the CT side they would invariably lose. They were putting up great numbers on the T side, and then when it came to the CT side, it would all fall apart, and that sort of ties in with what we're talking about here. You know, the importance of having those entry fraggers and being able to sort of stop them getting onto the site.
I mean, now we've been talking about Fearless as well, and if you are a really good AWPer, then Inferno probably isn't the map you really want to play. There are like only a couple of AWPers that do really well. Yeah. Strangely, Device is one of them on TSM. He does really well AWPing on Inferno, but a lot of people would prefer, I mean, I guess Dust 2 or pretty much any other map actually than Inferno would be better for the AWPing.
Well, we're going to do a quick rundown of the players. You can see that we're starting to get them on camera here. So again, you can just take us through this. There's, of course, the star player, I guess, in a lot of ways for Envious. It's Kenny S on the screen. I mean, we've been sort of watching him quite closely. He had a very emotional final at the last major, really tough for him.
I cry every time I think about it. Like this if you cry every time.
No, but I mean, it was tough for him, and we were looking to see if he can bounce back, of course. So the enigmatic, charismatic, all the other words that end in attic, in-game leader, happy there.
The one man in the world that shocks isn't enough for. There we go.
You've tilted him, Duncan.
I got to him all before the match.
Yeah, and of course,
Easy Skins paid me off with those dirty skins.
Of course, we've got Apex as well, one of those entry fraggers that we've been talking about. And actually, when Envious were winning events and playing really well, he was vitally instrumental in that. And then, of course, next to him, we've got the guy who, when he first came into the French scene, he was this sort of unknown quantity, NBK. And then since there, he's now kind of the consistent veteran, one of the bedrocks of Envious' success.
Yeah, he rocks in bed.
That was like just so easy. Tee it up.
Wow. The thing is, as well, we do get criticised a lot for this, Duncan, our immature sex jokes, but you just keep doing it. So anyway, this is Josh, this is Mole. We've, like I say, played together in the distant past. He's kind of been in and out of the scene, but he's been really putting in some hard yards. It typically kind of plays in that lurker role. He's kind of like that in the teams that he's played in the past. But yeah, he's certainly the kind of the lowest in terms of international experience. This is Fearless, the man that Rattlesnake's talked about so much, as you know. And I do think he's a very good AWPer, but you're absolutely right. But very big weight of responsibility on his broad shoulders.
Still some way to go before we can actually say it.
Yeah,
before people like us can say that at least. Okay, Rattlesnake can say it himself, of course. He can be bold, but not quite the same for us.
And there we are, the legendary UK in-game leader, Rattlesnake.
He used to be all the rage and sauce.
He certainly did. In fact, if you go on YouTube right now, you'll be able to see some of his raging videos, in particular one where he was playing against the Finnish royalty team against Angel Dust, where he kept getting killed through smoke. He is known for his temper, so pay attention to that. Weber, who was touted as being one of the UK sort of up-and-coming stars, was involved in a lot of those great UK teams towards the end of the CSS and the start of the CSGO era, and then kind of has really struggled to find form.
I've got to correct you just before we finish this. We're doing the lineup.
Yeah.
Some of the Swedish guys told me his name's actually Weber. So,
he hates
pronounce
that.
it correctly, please.
He hates that. And here we go, and it's Pulse with a 3. And again, he's been playing for so long, but he's still really, really young. Like, I think he started playing serious top-level competitive Counter-Strike Source when he was about like 14 or something. It was ridiculous. So actually has a lot more experience than you might think. But again, it's still a big step up for him. He's going to be one of the kind of more inexperienced players here in this lineup.
I actually remember watching Pulse sometime last year and sort of specifically thinking this kid's got like really, really good mechanics.
Yeah.
Just like, I mean, so experience is a big thing, but mechanically he's very strong. You'll see him do like, maybe not to the same level, but sort of like the way that Shroud will sometimes play, where it looks like there's not so much thought behind it, but it's all just like, you know, muscle memory and just like a lot of hours. So it's fun to watch, but he does need, like, I think, a lot more experience, especially playing these events.
This is the thing. I mean, look, you know, we can talk about the home turf advantage and what it's like to be playing, you know, in front of a British crowd and everything. But these guys, you know, are gonna, you know, they've never played anything like Envious before.
Happy's using an A4.
Absolutely huge.
Happy's using an A4. I mean, he was like the king of the A1, or like basically one of the big spokespeople for the A1. So the fact that he's swapped over to the A4 now, that's for me like going to be the big thing, is to see how many people on the CT side are going to be swapping over to the
well, especially
not coming home.
Back to my side.
Downgrading.
Well, here's the interesting thing.
Downgrading,
was that as soon as the update was released, it was actually NBK who said that he thinks that it's still really good, the A1, and he's going to stick with it, he said. So it's interesting because obviously Happy was the guy who always complained about the A1 has to, like, he wanted it buffed, in fact. He wanted more bullets, so he wanted the cheaper weapon, you know?
His name for his A1 was like, Valve, please stop nerfing me. Like, it's just like, please stop touching that gun. But I guess at the last major, basically, Valve got all the stats that they needed. The fact that I think like 95% of the players at the actual event were using A1s, they're like,
That will be the name of your biography, actually. Please stop touching that gun.
So, I mean, you know, actually, you bring up a good point here. You know, we have had these recent changes. Is this anything that we need to be sort of mindful of as well going into this game?
These changes are completely massive. It's actually really hard to predict how they're going to impact the game. And the problem is they happen really close to the event. A lot of people are complaining, saying, "Oh, couldn't they wait till like a better time?" But there is no better time. There are events all over the place from like now until the end of the year. There is no better time to release an update. So
it's almost a tradition with Valve, actually, just before an update to do a. You
have to. I mean, when you've got an event every weekend, Valve at some point they have to pull the trigger and actually get a change in there.
Exactly.
And then you actually have a live event to go off of now to get some information off.
I mean, the change to the M4A1 is fun enough. I think it was warranted. I think that gun was way too good.
It feels like a new gun.
It might as well have just been a new gun. But that's like the.
Why do you think it's warranted? I think everyone's stats who's a really good player is better with the AK than any of the M4s.
I just think
people have double the AK kills as they do in M4, even though it's a CT-sided game. So why would you want to make the guns even worse?
I just think I think they could change the M4A4 if they wanted to, but I think the M4A1 was too powerful compared to just on the CT side. I think it did too much.
The thing is, they're looking at the CT numbers, right? And they're just saying, okay, why aren't people getting the A4? You know, we need to make that skin money, so we need to find a way to balance it out.
Honestly, that update.
You're a cynic.
Like that
goddamn cynic, sir.
That part of the update is like the smallest one. The big one is obviously all the hitboxes and like all the models rechanging. That's the huge one.
NBK. Jumping Scout can't have used that
all
anymore,
of these
or
things.
at least not as effectively.
You can't even go in matchmaking. Even in matchmaking, you'll feel the difference playing the game. So that's a huge change, and that's going to be interesting to see.
Models are different. I mean, how you actually in the pistol rounds in particular, it just feels like guys are flying around corners now, just all over the place. Really hard to predict. It just messes with your head. So there's just really big changes that are actually going to be impacting muscle memory, things that take time to adjust for.
It's actually for AWPing that I think that the jumping hitboxes changing is interesting, because one of the biggest problems in the game was when people jump over a box, if you actually aim at the model on the old one, you'd miss them sometimes actually. That's why the fact that people like Guardian Skadoo could hit those shots so often just shows that actually how broken it was. It's only the most exceptional AWPers could hit those shots when people were jumping. In theory, as long as you can put the crosshair on the model and press left mouse 1, you should be getting those kills. So I'm hoping if it's more in line that will be a bit more fixed and of more reliable AWPing.
Worth mentioning that one of the teams that did abuse the sort of jump scout mechanic was Envious and of course MBK.
MBK, man, he's the king.
I mean, this is how much of a nerf is this? Is this like neutering him almost coming into this?
There are some. I mean, so on Inferno there aren't that many places to jump scout anyway, so I don't think it'll make a big difference. But I say on Dust 2 A-bomb side, where maybe standing behind the box and AWPing down long. If you
Mirage?
do that now,
Mirage is like the big
Those are the two good ones.
Overpass and Mirage, like those two maps.
So the difference is on Mirage, the place where you jump scout in B, you only see the top of the model like for a very short time. But on Dust 2, you see the whole body. You'll get killed now doing that. I'm absolutely sure. Like on a pro level, people will shoot people who jump behind a box like that. And people tried in the past. You could see that they tried and just they didn't actually register at all. But yeah, I think on some maps it'll have a huge impact for someone trying to do that.
So something to maybe be mindful of, going through the tournament.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is going to be a learning experience, really. Like it's been a long time since we've had such a big patch that's changed so many of the core mechanics of the game. So, don't
Plus,
blink.
you look over on the other side of the tournament. Okay, TSM had some of the best A1 players in the whole world. Like people like Dupree, legendary with that weapon, really, one of their absolute best weapons, really, really, really good. So I actually want to see how that will affect all the top teams,
In Envy in particular, man, we're talking about Happy, but it's just like Kenny as well he turned to the A1. If he can't afford his AWP, he had to have the A1, and now it's a completely different gun. So how's that going to impact his game? Already he's on a team that loves to force, so getting that op is hard enough for him. He had to be able to turn back to the rifle and get some results there. But now that his rifle's completely changed, has he had time to adapt? I mean, he still has to work on the op.
Yeah.
See, what I like is when you were talking before about a Rattlesnake like this, and he's the thing where he's actually saying to his team, I could AWP, but I'll let you guys do it so you can play your role.
Sure.
Happy's like, you're a primary AWPer, but I think I'm an AWPer. You take the rifle. Listen, it's about me, right? The team is me. You guys are here to make me look good, right? No shocks? Well, you can go back to Titan then.
but
Take your time out in Titan.
I mean, do we know how much time that these teams have been able to really adapt to the changes as well? I mean, how many hours under the belt can you realistically have had?
It was only a couple of days.
Yeah.
And then there was an update yesterday fixing some stuff. So there's no real way in terms of scrims you could have done anything. You can't play official matches, obviously.
You're literally DMing. You're literally just DMing hour on hour on hour on hour.
And obviously they changed the way you defuse, well, not the way you defuse, but the actual animation for defusing now with the wires and everything else.
Oh, yeah,
No, the umbilical cords?
Which is an important change as well. It makes it much more visible. Fake diffusing is going to be changed. I mean, not necessarily even for the worse. I think it's too soon to call whether or not it's better or worse, but it's a change anyway. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of really big.
I don't think that's changed. That the umbilical cord change is going to impact the pro scene at all. I don't think that. I think it has literally zero impact. I think it's literally for the casual market, the casual players who are just coming in.
He said the most cynical guy ever, isn't he? All the Valve does is make things for the noobs, skins and all that. Richard, it's all about follow the money.
That's
exactly how it works.
I remember when Semler was a wide-eyed. optimist.
Get out.
Now he's sat over here.
I survived BLC. We all learned our lesson in BLC. Don't do it about the money.
Now he's sat over here with the dim lights and the cigarette. It's all about the money. Follow the money. That's how they got Capone, man. I'm telling you. The word on the street, it's more than.
Pay your taxes, boy. But that's how it is. That's how it is. So the umbilical cord, I don't think we need to really talk about it at all in the pro scene.
Do you know, Semler, if you fold $1 bill, it looks like the Twin Towers are burning or something, you know?
So
I thought you were going to go with the try
so if we have... Oh, this didn't do the Marlboro one either. So look, if you are there any other patches, any of the changes in this patch that you think might come into play with the pros just before we move on to predictions?
The hitboxes is going to be the most obvious one.
Easier to get headshots.
People are going to be hitting shots where they will really surprise you.
It feels like AD is kind of back into the game as well now. Maybe just a bit when you're getting into these pistol fights, it seems like, the AD mechanics are just somewhat back into the game. So the first thing you think about is Scream.
There we go.
Yeah.
He's at this tournament.
First thing, exactly. You think about Scream, the fact that it seems to be easier to hit a headshot now because they've altered. It's now a bubble instead of a box, so it's just ever so slightly bigger, right? So I think of Scream, AD. What happened when that got nerfed? Scream's game completely went out.
Yeah, went from being the human aimbot to the human aim not.
When Kingwin get on that, or not Kingwin, sorry, but G2 now get onto that stage.
Keep working on that one.
It's going to be crazy. So that's something we got to keep an eye on, basically, is the hitbox and the movement that goes with those hitboxes is really awkward now. It's really weird.
You missed a really big pun earlier. I have to bring this up now.
Why?
I don't want to throw you
mean
under
that
the bus.
rapper, the Hispanic rapper who died in the 90s? He was awesome,
big
wasn't
pun.
he? Yeah. I miss him as well, Anders, but thanks for that.
Rattlesnake take a time out to study law. You could have gone with, now he's back to lay down the law.
No, he should have been like, I am the law. Judge Dredd.
There were like 100 million references you could have done. I'm disappointed.
If I do this, if you can have nothing when you start casting. You know what I mean? I can't take all the grade A material for myself. That's selfish. This is one of the reasons why this desk works. I'm like, I'll let them have that one.
He makes you look good. And quite frankly,
thank you.
Team
player. All the jobs he's doing. Step your game up.
Right. So look, we're just in case you guys, just in case you guys haven't realised, we're doing what's known in the business as filling, because there is a slight technical issue on stage. We're waiting for one player to sort of get into the knife round. But I'm just going to go ahead and go to predictions anyway. If we need to take a rewind and talk about something that seems a bit weird and out of place, you know why. But let's get on to predictions. I think it's important that we sort of gauge just how much of a stomp it's going to be. Of course, there is an intrinsic bias in the map. It's all important about getting that CT side first, but just in a rough ballpark, how heavy can Envious post the numbers up here?
16-1.
Really?
The problem is...
Well, they lose the pistol and then... plain terms.
No, sorry, 16-2.
The problem is there's a general trend that doesn't tend to happen. That, intuitively, you'd think a really good team on a good map for them, they would always win the huge margin. But actually, teams like Envious especially, they're the ones where, if it's going really easily, they're going to drop the odd round just because they're not going to be solely into the game. And so actually, I would say they'd probably win 16-7 or something. And even if they were playing it way above the level, the whole point is they'll give up around here or there, or they'll do something stupid like overly force fire where they could have saved and won by a bigger margin, They'll mess around. That's why you don't tend to see just such big crushing scores. That's why actually, bizarrely, you tend to see really huge stomps when it's two amazing teams where they're going super hell for leather every round.
What I really love is traditionally, if you're in front of a home crowd and you predict the home team to be like down 16-1, there's going to be like a lot of booing. Everyone here is just like, realistic. It's
not
like,
a
it's probably like,
I don't think you've seen quite how bad the drop off in UK CS is. Like no one has any faith here, and there's nothing to actually bet that on. There's nothing to back that up at all. We haven't even had this is the first real sort of investment we've put into a team.
You know what, Richard?
For a long time.
The UK really needs a bit of skin in the game, a bit of easyskins.com in the game.
Pay me.
No,
but it's true. I mean, you think about there was a time, like say again towards the end of CSS and the start of CS:GO, we were actually exporting our best players to the German league, and we know how this ends, we know how this story ends. But actually, there was a point where we had good, decent talent, and we haven't had anything for a long time. It feels so.
I mean. So what's really weird is obviously, I think part of the reason why the European Counter-Strike scene is so strong is like a cultural thing. It has to do with like how the top teams practice against each other and like how easy it is to actually find practice partners. And one of the reasons why the North American scene has been sort of struggling a lot is that the practice culture has been ruined. But for some reason, it seems like the UK is sort of like out of that, of that culture, of that atmosphere. They should be able to benefit from it as well, but somehow it doesn't happen.
Well, that's always been the problem in terms of even a cultural identity for Britain, is the idea that it's supposed to be part of Europe, but it's never really thought of that way. It's sort of between Europe and America in some way. And in that sense, I actually agree. It kind of is more towards the NA side. It's like, in fact, they do the same thing. They make the same complaints. We don't get the top practice. We don't put in the same time. We don't have the boot camp facilities. It's all the same excuses the NA teams were making a year ago. So I think it's actually, they are more in line ideologically with that sense. Whereas in theory, all the European teams otherwise, they're getting the good practice. I mean, G-Play, part of the reason everyone knew they were going to be decent at some point is because we knew online they did crush people who were much better than them in scrims. So.
Right then, guys.